Springboks won quite handsomely in Gqeberha on Saturday. A great test match and great performance by them as well. And what a crowd there as well. Gavin Rich was there. He joins me now. And Nick Mallet all the way, I think, from Amsterdam today. Nick, I think, but to start off, let's go straight to the elephant in the room, the red card for Jasper Wiese, which I thought was probably one of the most idiotic red cards I've ever seen in a test match. Not many brain cells were used there.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because the laws that are very clear on this one, hey, Brendan. You cannot make head contact, not even to come up close and put your nose on his nose like a greeting in New Zealand type of thing. There was no forcing it, quite clearly. He just got up really close to the guy saying, "Get off me," type of thing. But there was the meeting of foreheads, and he got right up close. And you're just not allowed to do it. It's in the book. It says no head-to-head contact whatsoever, and it's a pity for Jasper because it's a sort of game I think he would have thrived in, and he would have really got stuck into those guys. But it's a lesson for everyone to learn. I was coaching Italy, and just to give you a quick example, there was Mauro Bergamasco, who was my open side flanker, was trying to pull someone out of a driving maul. He was interfering with our driving maul, and his hand just brushed across his face, just past his eyes, and the guy immediately grabbed his eyes. He got 6 games. It was unbelievable. No matter how much we said, there was no intention. In fact, he wasn't even looking at the guy. He was behind him, and he sort of pulled him away with his hand. The laws are what they are, and you just have to respect them. And so I don't disagree, funny enough, with that decision. As soon as I saw the head go together, I just said, "That's trouble. He's gonna get a red there."
Yeah, I think when Brendan said that it was idiotic, I don't think he was talking about the referee's decision. I think you were talking about Jasper.
Oh, sorry.
I meant Jasper because the players know these rules. They know the laws. Yes. They know they're going to come down hard. There's. I looked at the protocols yesterday, and it says any intentional foul play is a permanent red straight away. Now, the pictures the ref saw, he had no other choice than to give that red as well. Exactly. And the thing to me now, what worries me is how much it's going to impact, because Jasper's got a disciplinary record. He was banned for 6 games last year. He missed the Island series. And now he's going to have this. And it's 4 to 10 weeks is the mid-range. So they might lose him for quite a few games.
Gavin?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that, actually, just before we go, I just want to give a shout-out to where I am. I'm at Sinsa at the Buccaneers Beach Lodge, a place that anybody, if you're down here, it's a great place to visit. I'll just show you the view. If you can see it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I was just going to say that surely, obviously, to me, it was a red card. It was, it was one you called before the referee made the decision. And I find it quite weird that there's some South African fans who are quibbling with that, because to me, there is no debate. But it's, it comes at a bad time for the Boks, because Number 8 is an area where, when everybody's fit, we've got it's just such fertile ground. We've got Cameron Harnicum, we've got Ulrich Lowe. Let's not forget him, who's out there somewhere but injured at the moment. And then if Jasper's out, we know that John Plumtree played Sia Khaleesi at number 8 quite a bit in the last GRC season. In fact, and I think he will continue to play Sia there as long as he's playing for the Sharks. But I don't know if I've missed somebody, that there might be somebody that I've forgotten about, but obviously this is an opportunity then for Evan Roos to step into the void and maybe get an extended run there, which a lot of people are hoping that he will get at some stage, and then maybe answer questions around him.
Yeah, look, just to give on saying who you missed, the Boks obviously selected Jean Augustus, who's also injured.
There's Kwagga as well.
There's Kwagga. And Jean-Luc Dupré can also play 8, and he's on paternity leave in England, so he could probably be called back. But I think short term, probably Evan is the number 1 choice there. Rassie did say earlier in the season that he doesn't want to play Sia at 8. He's only going to consider him at 6. But he may have to reconsider if his number 8 stocks are low. So,
yeah, I think Marco, he's also played there as a sort of Bristow type of number 8 as well. I think the sort of innovation that the Boks have, and the coaching qualities of the group, will allow any player really to move from 6, 7, or 8. We used to say that guy was only an open side, or only a blind side, or only a number 8, and we were very sort of dogmatic about what was necessary in those positions. But you can adapt. You can have your 2 lineup jumpers as 6 and 7 nowadays, and maybe a shorter 8 who gets there second at every breakdown and can be a good stealer. But I don't think it's going to be it's a problem for Wiese. What I think one of the big problems is, or the only problem I can pick out of this, is that the attention to detail of the coaching staff on every aspect of the game is just patently obvious. You can see it. Every player after the game, he says, we knew exactly what was going to face us. Our plan was to do exactly what we did today. Every player knew what he had to do. Now, on the disciplinary side, that has to be emphasized as well. Every single player's got to know that you do not put your head against another guy's forehead at any given time in any part of the game. And, little things like Evan Roos has had an issue around discipline before. He used to, I think, try and show his physicality after the whistle had gone, which is really a bad idea. And he's improved that immeasurably. He's much, much better. So I think just a little look at that from the squad perspective. Make sure that the players are absolutely aware that is, your physicality must come in your ruck cleaning, in your smashing people back in tackles, in your carry, in the quality of your maul, in the quality of your scrum. There's so many opportunities to be physical on the rugby field without grabbing a guy's jersey and pulling him around. So I'm sure that'll be spoken. The guys will be spoken to by the squad about that.
The problem with the Kobus, I mean, Rassie, I was obviously at the press conference on Saturday night, and Rassie kept on going on about how this isn't in his nature. Well, it's not who he is. But you can actually remind me, because I can't remember. But he has been out with suspension before. Well, he was out. He missed quite a few BOK games. Was it last year or the year before, where he'd been suspended for actions overseas. And you and I, Brendan, in the early days when the URC was still Pro 14, we used to work for Pro 14. So we watched a lot of games that other people wouldn't have, involving the Cheetahs and the Suzu, what do they call the Southern Kings? Southern Kings against those overseas teams. And I remember that was at the beginning of Jasper's career. He was playing for the Cheetahs, and he was a bit of a hothead then. I remember thinking then that he needed to clean up his act. So to me, it's a bit worrying that we're all these years later and he's still doing that kind of thing.
Yeah. It might have come what might have come out of it was the way in which they messed us around at the breakdown the week before. They flooded the breakdown. They were getting the tackler wasn't rolling away quickly enough. Holly Davidson, the referee, was coaching them off the ball, and our ball was so slow. And I think a lot of emphasis was placed on getting the breakdown right. And so early on they were trying to show, listen, guys, we can kick off with the kickoff, the start of the game. I mean, they just said, come, we want to scrum against you guys. In France, they used to kick it straight into the stand. Toulon, it was a favorite trick of Toulon. You'd be playing away from home. There'd be 15,000 screaming imbeciles in the stand. And the guy would kick it into row H, right up in the stand. And the front row would be waiting on the halfway line to take you on. And it wasn't only to take you on. The French, it was to actually, the lock would come through and smack your hooker. And it was just, you're playing away from home, and this is our home here. And it was a way to impose yourself. And that's what the BOKS tried to do. So it didn't work because there was too much enthusiasm, and they pushed early. But you can use the laws as you wish. I mean, the laws are there to be exploited and to be manipulated in the best way for your side.
Well, Nick, you would know about overcompensation when it comes to things like that, because I remember, and a lot of the players who played in that game told me that when they played against Ireland at Loftus in 1998, you'd basically said you need to be more physical or something, because they'd done something the week before that you were irritated about. And they completely overdid it in that game. I mean, eventually it was
I've never seen it. I've never seen a performance like that. It was honestly, it was the last 20 seconds of the game. And their hooker, who is the bald-headed guy, I can't remember his name. He went across the ruck and smacked Gary. And I think that's all I played. We beat them comfortably in Bloemfontein. And I just played that incident. And I said, I just can't understand this. This guy comes over, he's playing away from home. he's down by 40 points and he has the temerity to hit our captain. I said, I don't want to see that happening, at Loftus. Guys, these guys must understand, this isn't where, cheapers. I really regretted that. I mean, it goes down as one of the most violent performances by the Springboks I've ever seen.
Was it Keith Wood? The ball?
Keith Wood, that's right.
Keith
He
Wood,
went
yes.
off after about 50 minutes, blood streaming from his head. I think James Dalton or Mark Andrews had marched all over him in the bottom of a ruck. But their centre, I mean, Peter Muller was playing our inside centre, and he just hit the guy, I think with the ball. He was carrying the ball. He hit their centre with a leading forearm. Knocked him, broke his jaw, knocked him out. So it was a tough day at the office for the Irish.
I just ask on those, maybe that one and the other trick play that the Boks used, the kickoff. There's been some suggestions that it's illegal because Easthuizen was offside, but I don't think you can be illegal from a kickoff, and that the ball has to travel 10 meters, obviously, to be a proper kickoff. But your thoughts, and the other thing that was suggested to me on the weekend was that the line out could be seen as a flying wedge. I could easily see World Rugby outlawing both of them very quickly, but
I'll just quickly start on the kick on that flying wedge or whatever it is, that line out. How are you going to stop that? Because from kickoff, I mean, the lock goes up and he's supported by at least one player, if not two players, to catch the ball in the air. So this is just utilizing it in general play. You can't take a guy out in the air, and I don't see how people can complain about it. It's to set up a rolling maul in general play, which is perfectly legal. The kickoff, I think he was in front of the ball. Now, that if a guy's in front of the ball from the kickoff, it's not a penalty. It is you offer the opposition a scrum or a line out. They have the option. And if it hasn't been kicked 10 meters, your guy can play it, and it's you can play it, but it's also a scrum or a line out that the opposition can choose. So it's not a penalty. It's ironic that's not. I mean, it's against, I suppose, the spirit of the game type of thing. But in professional rugby, if you're allowed to do it to set up a scrum, why not do it? And from a mark, marking your 22, we're not going to kick it out. We want to scrum against you. So there are all sorts of ways that you can get hold of the opposition and force them into situations that they don't want to be in.
Yeah. Now, and just other than that, obviously a great performance by the Springboks. Let's maybe turn to that. Certainly what we spoke about last week about these youngsters putting pressure on the older guys. And there were some great performances on the field there across the board. In fact, I think start maybe with Grant Williams, and Gavin and I spoke yesterday about Grant Williams and Manie Libbok being almost our first choice halfback pairing at the moment. And the backline just looking so fluid with them when they've got the ball.
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends, Brendan, on the style of rugby you're wanting to play that day, because there's no question that Manie gets a backline going. He's a fly-off who's always looking for space for other people. So he gets the ball, he runs onto the ball beautifully, he's a threat himself, and his timing of the pass is excellent, and the width he gets on his pass is excellent. I mean, there's Scrum-Off read that little run round he did, but he still managed to get the offload to Van der Merwe there. And for that wonderful try from outside our 22, I think we ran it on a penalty advantage. And I think out of all the fly-offs, he gets the backline moving the best. It's a question of, in wet weather, is his goal kicking still, is it going to be up to Pollard's standard or perhaps Ngomazulu's standard? And, you've also got to go in with defensively. Where does he stand up defensively if the opposition are winning 50% of the ball as well? So we've got great options there. That's just on Manie. But if we go to, I think Grant Williams is an outstanding talent. I mean, he's so quick. He's got better and better at his core skills of scrum-off, which are obviously passing off the left and right hand. His box kicking, when to kick, when to break, when to pass. He's got better at that. And I think he's a really very dangerous player. So it might be no longer Faf and Reinach. It might now be Grant Williams and Morne van der Berg who are moving up into those top two positions. But we're so lucky with it. I've just mentioned 4 guys who are easily capable of playing a test against New Zealand, and that's what I think Rusty's trying to get, is that there won't be any loss of performance just simply because one individual comes out of a key position. I
think that they'll be sort of looking at 2 scenarios now when you look at the Boks. When when I look at the fly halves, because we've got incredible depth there, and I think in any other era, I know he needs to work on his game management. He's got a lot of working to do on his game management. I'm now talking about a guy not in the group, Jordan Hendrickse. In any other era, we would be excited about that guy and sort of talk about him as a coming guy. Yeah. But at the moment, he's probably fifth, because I think Damian Willemse would probably be Russell's fourth choice. So we've got a situation now. If you look ahead at the World Cup in 2027. I would sort of say, well, if you could inject Andre Pollard with something and sort of put him away, put him into mothballs for those years, and then bring him out just for the World Cup final, where it's likely to be a low-scoring affair because of the tension that comes into a World Cup final. You know, there's 4 years of boasting rights that are on the line, so there's massive tension, and nobody's got the nerves of steel like Pollard has. So I'd almost sort of say, well, listen, that's where I want to see him again, because at the moment I don't know. I mean, I think that one of the big differences to me between Loftus and this game, obviously the Boks were out to maybe play different games, but one of the big differences between those two games was just that I thought Pollard was. I was a bit worried. I was a bit concerned about Pollard, and a bit concerned about the Bok game there. Mani, as you say, Nick. I mean, you don't want him in a wet weather game, and he's got a little bit of work to do on his goal kicking, probably, although it's coming right at the moment. Sasha Feinberg in Ngomazulu is definitely the guy for 2027, I think, because he can actually do both. I mean, he's a guy who's got the skills, he's got the kicking skills to dominate a game with you're looking for just a territory game. You're playing the old-fashioned conservative rugby. So he's probably your guy, actually, in the 2027 final. And it concerns me a bit that Russie sometimes hints that he might play him as a captain at some point, because then I don't know what we're going to do with the other two fly halves, because I like having both of them. But if you're talking about New Zealand, that's where I'm going to ask you, Nick, because you're the guy who, when we beat New Zealand in Wellington in 2018, and it was the first time in a long time, I think you said that the Springboks, before that game, you said the Springboks needed to score 32 points. It was something like and this game that we're playing against New Zealand. So when I say there's two things. One, we're building for the World Cup, but the more immediate sort of target is Eden Park in September. And that more immediate target isn't necessarily a World Cup final. It's a huge game, but it's not a World Cup final. It's a game where I think the both teams will play with I mean, they'll attack. I mean, it will be a game where maybe the Boks need to score 30 points, and maybe we do need Mani. Am I right in saying that?
No, we did. I agree. I think that when New Zealand, even though they kick a lot, they're kicking a lot. They kick like we do. We kicked 29 times, I think it was, on Saturday, but we didn't feel it because we recovered so many of our kicks. You know, they were almost, it was almost a way to transfer momentum, which we did really well. So it doesn't mean that you don't kick a lot, but you need the ability to create try-scoring opportunities. And you're right, it comes from 9 and 10. Their decisions, the decisions they make, how they get the backline moving, when they call for the forwards to take it up, when they want the ball, the timing of when they take the ball, how flat they take it. And if you look at the New Zealanders, they've scored now, I think it is 30-odd points twice against France. Okay, it's not the A France team, but it's still a very competent France team. And so it's hard to think of the All Blacks going and not scoring three or four tries in most games they play against, despite the fact that we have one of the best defenses in the world. So I think between 20 and 30 points, probably 30 points we're going to need to beat them at Eden Park. And if we can do that with Pollard, taking it to the line and creating space for his backline, well and good. But if when we play Pollard, things stutter and it's just forwards around the corner and up and unders, then we're not going to score 4 tries like that, I don't think. So it's a good point you make. We need perhaps a fly-half who can create opportunities for others and be a threat himself and be a goal kicker and be a tactical kicker. You're asking a lot, but they've had Dan Carter, who was like that. And I think in time, with a really good coach, and I think Sasha's very fortunate to have a guy like Tony Brown who can really talk him through things. I think that's going to be a massive help to his growth, as it will be to Pollard, because you never stop learning as either a coach or a player. And I'm sure Pollard's picking up a huge amount of information about how to play as an attacking fly-half and how to create for others around him.
Yeah, I was going to say don't worry. I was going to say the competition between the three is going to be very intense over the next year. It's going to be interesting to see how they go. Do you still want to make another point about the fly-half, Gav? Because I was going to ask about.
I was just going to say I was going to say that we do need 3. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We actually need 4. I mean, I'd be happy for because I think that Jordan's been told what to go and work on, and I do think that guy's got a lot of ability. And he is only about 22 now. He's been around for a while, so we could think of him as a guy who's been around for a while. I do think Jordan Hendricks has got the ability to come through, and the sooner he gets back into the BOK mix, probably, and gets under the coaching of Tony Brown, probably the better. But, we know what happened at the last World Cup. I mean, people forget that at the start of the World Cup, I remember writing a story on supersport.com that got me into trouble because they wanted me to be more positive. But at the start of the last World Cup, when they did that team announcement, remember, it was Loert de Jager who was missing. I think Lucanio Am was missing, and Pollard was missing.
Pollard, yeah.
So we could get to the next World Cup, especially with our sort of year-round rugby season. We can get to the next World Cup where we've got like 2 of those fly halves out.
Major injured. Yeah.
It's not impossible. And if you want to win a World Cup, you have to have decent fly halves. So so we actually need 3. We need 3 or 4. We need Damien to play there every now and then. I'd actually like to see him play inside centre going forward at some point because of Fussy. I think Fussy's going to be the number 1 fullback. And there's a lot to be had, obviously, with having sort of 3 receivers on the field. Or I don't know if Fussy is so much of a receiver when he's at fullback, Nick. But
what he's really good at, he's really good at judging when to put that grubber through. He's really improved that aspect. He's got good hands. But he's not the creative. I always look at a player who, when he has the ball in his hands, he's looking at putting someone else in a hole. And Fussy looks like he wants to get into the hole himself, So there's a little bit difference. It's a finisher as opposed to a creator. And Willie Leroux is the perfect creator, a creative type of player. And Marnie's the perfect creative type of fly-off. But you get guys who are having a look for themselves, and it's not a bad thing, but it's just you've got to adapt to the way they play and understand it. So I agree with you entirely. This all year round rugby season that we've got at the moment, no one is going to survive it. It's just impossible. There are going to be 5 key injuries to players who will say, "Oh, how are we going to manage the World Cup without this guy?" But through the depth that we've created, I think we'll manage. We've got. When I took a look when at Port Elizabeth, when they panned off the field and went into the reserve bench, I took a look at that and I thought, good heavens, we're putting 30 points against, at that point it was 30-odd points against Italy. And in the stand were 8 World Cup winners, sitting there. So there is we've got tremendous strength in depth, and it's just performance. Everyone has to really, every Saturday, even against Georgia, you watch, every guy gets a chance that game. He mustn't miss that opportunity because there was Thomas du Toit. I'm not saying he's not a good loose head, but he's always played. He's played loose head and then was moved to tight head. So it's not right to say he's not a loose head. He started off his career as a loose head. And within 25 minutes, it was off you come because you're not getting the dominance we want at that position. So they're ruthless. This coaching staff, if you don't do your job, you're going to come off the field.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's turn to Nelspruit now, Bombela. The team that Russ is going to pick, he's already said, Gavin, as far as I know, in the press conference, that Marnus van der Merwe and Bowen Venter are probably going to get their debuts this week. But other than that, every single member of that squad is now played. So I suppose it depends what he wants to get out of that game. But he could play an incredibly young squad in that game as well. The Georgia didn't look that great against the Cheetahs, and they lost quite heavily against Ireland in their previous game as well. Just your thoughts on what do you think he's going to go for this week?
Well, what I'd like to see is actually, because he didn't get much, I think it was because they were down to 14 men and then 13 men that Malcolm Marx ended up playing quite a long game on Saturday. I would actually like to, because I'm hearing that Russie's looking at Jan-Hendrik Wessels as the sort of long-term replacement for Bongi, who I don't think is going to be around for much longer. I don't think that he's got he just doesn't seem to have the energy that he had, and he's not plugging those holes like he used to. So I think Russie is really sort of thinking of Jan-Hendrik Wessels as a hooker, and he didn't. We didn't really see enough of him on Saturday. So, I'd be sorry if he doesn't get another chance to play hooker at some point. And Georgia's probably the time to do it, although Russie probably wouldn't mind doing it against Australia either. It's not like Russie's scared of experimenting. And looking at, obviously, Marnus van der Merwe is going to have to get an opportunity, and Bowen Venter is. I think Russie said right in the beginning that he was going to give him his first cap against Italy. I'm right in saying that Steiner comes back though for the Castle Lager Rugby Championship.
Yeah. Yeah, Stephen
Okay,
comes back for that.
so our problems that Lou said that we have at the moment are going to clear up. I don't know how long Ntutuku Machunu's out for. But yeah, looking at that test on Saturday, I mean, it's interesting because he said that he wants to give everybody 2 games in this initial phase of 4 games. Does that mean that he plays Pollard against Georgia, which to me wouldn't really be right? I think that Sasha should actually probably play against Georgia because Pollard's only played that 1 game. Does he give Bongi another? You've just mentioned that he's playing the other hooker, but Bongi, I think Bongi needs to be given match fitness if he's going to be used at all in the rugby championship. So I know that the guys train very hard in that way. I mean, quite a few of the players have said, in interviews and that they play at a higher intensity, they train at a higher intensity than they play, so they're always ready to play. But there are some guys there that probably do need a little bit of game time. So whilst he's going to bring the young guys through, and he was probably would I be correct in saying that Roos was probably always destined to start at 8 in this game? I would imagine that this would be the game that he got. So we'll see him there. They've played Morne van der Merwe in 2 games so far. So now do they play Faf on Saturday, or do they bring back, or do they continue with Williams and let him build some momentum? It's actually something, and because I do think that Russie's probably is thinking, because Tony Brown might have had a word in his ear, what I said just now about somebody like Willemse at some stage playing at 12. Maybe this would be a game to do that as well. Damien Delendi did have 2 games. He played against the Barbarians at 12, and he played against Italy. So this might be an opportunity to give Damien Willemse a run at 12, and maybe even with Pollard. I don't know. I mean, that could be interesting. I mean, would we see a different Pollard if he had Damien Willemse next to him? I don't know. You would know more about that, Nick. Maybe you should talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to underplay what I mean. He had a great season with Leicester. He's got the kicking game. He's got a wonderful kicking game. Very calm, very collected. I mean, you might start him, give him 50 minutes, and get Feinberg on, or vice versa. I agree that this is the last opportunity to give guys a go. So if you've got a squad of 45, I would say you'd be using your 25th player to your 45th player in this game to give them opportunities, give them a bit of experience, try and build up their test cap. I don't think we're in any trouble against Georgia in any part of the game, even scrummaging. I think we're going to sort them out. So it's an opportunity to give players experience. And so does Pollard need experience? Probably not. But after the way that Barney played, he probably would like to put his stamp on the game a little bit as well. So it's interesting. He's just got so many choices, and he'll obviously have looked at this as a block, 4 games, and he would like to try and get something out of these 4 games. And I think it is 2 games for most people, so that there's a bit of a little bit of experience there. Someone like Sia, for example, might be an opportunity at number 8. It's something which you just have a look and you bring him on. If he's just coming back from all these injuries, maybe you bring him on or start him and get Russ on for the second half. There's so many opportunities that Rusty can give these players, but I think that the experimentation is going to stop when it comes to the rugby championship. I know he's gone in against Australia away last year with 12 changes. I think Australia will be better after this Lions series. So I think we've just got to be a little bit careful against those top 2 teams.
Yeah, I was going to say,
he's taking the squad down to 35 after this weekend. Yeah. They're going to have a weekend, and it is going to be interesting to me this weekend. Sorry, Brendan, to just go back to your question, because that whole versatility, we've got so many players who are versatile. And if I was wanting to make a prediction for Saturday, would be that we might see, because Kainan played at 13 this last weekend, so we might see Kainan on the wing and see Ethan Hooker make his full debut, because I know he came on as a replacement. But actually, number 13, that's because that's an exciting. We've got so much exciting potential out wide there now, and Kurt Lee and Cheslin. They played in the first 2 tests, so maybe they're due for a rest. But I agree with you, Nick, that when we play Australia this time, we've got to use it as a sort of a test, as a building block for the New Zealand game. It can't be too much looking at sort of 2027. Yeah. This is going to be, we've got to beat New Zealand at Eden Park. I was in New Zealand when they lost to France in that try from the end of the world, because it was of the Springbok tour, the under Ian McIntosh, all those years ago. So I remember I've got a vivid memory of the last time the All Blacks lost at Eden Park. But there are a lot of New Zealanders and a lot of South Africans who weren't born then.
Yeah,
so we want to win that game. I mean, and I think you know how emotional, because I remember when you won in Wellington in 1998. We came into the changing room after that game, and I remember you noted that I was a bit misty-eyed. And I would really like to see, after all these years of not just South Africa but everybody getting caned. I think the All Blacks, the Lions did draw there, didn't they, in 2017, and there might have been one other draw. But otherwise, every other team's lost. In fact, the other draw was South Africa. It was in 1994 in that test. Brendan Fenter gave away a ridiculous penalty right about 10 minutes from the end that eventually saw them draw level. But it was, it will be great to win that game. So I think that this is all about building for them.
Yeah, but I was going to say, when you started there, you were talking about the combinations about Kane. I was going to suggest, what about a backline of Sasha, Damien at 12, Ethan at 13, and Kanan at 14? That would be quite fun, I must admit.
Well, do you see? I don't like talking about what's said to me off the record, but I did bump into Rassie last weekend and had a sort of off the record conversation with him after the press conference, the one press conference, and he did tell me he was quite close to actually playing Sasha at 12 in this last game. So. And it might be good for Sasha to actually play a game where he's got to be maybe a little bit more sort of structured at centre, and that he can't be quite as individualistic as he is at 10. So we could see that. Who knows?
Yeah.
No, but you mentioned Willemse. So you said Willemse 12, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, either or.
It could be either or. I mean, either or. But they both would do that same thing, and they would both give you that what I was talking about earlier about that sort of 3 receiver thing. Yeah. 3 receivers in the back line.
Yeah, I was going to say, just last one, as we're going to finish off here because we're running out of time, but just thoughts on the Lions and New Zealand. New Zealand, to me, did what I thought they would do in that second test. And I see there's some little controversy being manufactured, like New Zealand likes to do, about the French team walking out during the presentation after the test match during the interviews. But I mean, there's storms in teacups, as we know.
Yeah, in a teacup.
Yeah. Just thoughts on those.
Yeah, I'll talk about I missed the Anzac game, unfortunately, but 48-0, obviously, it was a bit of a barbarian style performance by the Anzac side. I think that I thought the All Blacks were very good, and what I liked about them was their directness. They're a very skillful team, and there's a tendency for them to go wide early because they want to try and use the full width of the field, etc. But I thought in this game they concentrated on going down the field first, and there was some very good direct running from their forwards. What they do very well as well is their decision making between the ball carrier and the support runners. Usually they're spot on. The guy won't make a pass unless he can really look into the eyes of the receiver. And the 2 support runners keep their depth so that they can either take the pass if it's an offload, or else they're immediately there to clean to make sure that it's a quick ruck. And I was really impressed with the way that the players were looking for support, and also the way that the support kept its depth. And that's what maintains momentum. When you're getting across the advantage line and you're able to pass out of contact, you've got to do it in depth. Often the guy next to you will overrun it if he's too flat. And sometimes, and also if he's too flat and the guy doesn't pass, then you can't clean on the ruck. So a couple of times I think we're not quite as good at that as the All Blacks. We're very, very physical, and we either decide just to ruck, or else the guy will decide to offload, but it comes as a surprise to the guys who are supporting him. So I think New Zealand, if they start getting direct with their lineouts and a couple of good maul tries, their scrum stood up nicely. They've got a lot of good props, and they're starting to get some good hard-hitting runners. That'll make them harder for us to beat than if they start throwing it around like they have done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, do you want to weigh in? Do you want anything?
I remember. I still remember that Ellis Park game in 2022. It was where they fronted us. So I've got huge respect for New Zealand. I'd just like to say one thing, that I wish in New Zealand games they wouldn't play music over the game because it's just it was just like a cacophony of noise. I mean, you asked me what I think about that game. I was so irritated I wanted to turn it off. I mean, in this country we were getting it wrong at one stage, but at least now they're playing the music in breaks of play and not during the game. But there it was just ridiculous. I mean, it was.
Don't come to the Loftus, eh? Don't come to the Loftus then.
It's forced. It's trying to force the atmosphere. I don't think you needed to force the atmosphere at Gqeberha. I think they were bloody fully into it. Eh?
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a fantastic game, and it was one of the best. I mean, obviously I've been to all the South African stadiums, but the atmosphere you get at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, I think tops just about anywhere. It is just absolutely amazing.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we're done for this week. We'll chat again. Well, maybe not. Well, next week after the game, we'll have another chat just to wrap that up. But Nick, thanks for your time and enjoy your travels there. And Gav, yours also in the Eastern Cape. Enjoy your travels then. We'll chat next week.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.